What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and I apologize if I wasn't able to get some bets out on a video for you yesterday. All the dads out there will know. Went to put my kids to bed last night and I fell asleep. Didn't wake up till about 12 a.m. Did a bit of research, sent out some free picks to my Winnable, which cashed quite well. So the reason why I asked you guys to sign up to the free Winnables, when I can't put a video out, I'll still put some picks out. This is what you missed out on. So I shared two different posts to the free picks. First, I had a couple singles. Christian Boron, he cashed. LaMelo Ball, that cashed. The two players on Delta Connect didn't cash. That was unfortunate, but we also hit the same game parlay on the Pistons. Cade Cunningham to make 2 threes, Hardaway to make one. So pretty much got our money back there. And then I also shared this same game parlay. Predicted an Oklahoma City beatdown. OKC won, DeAndre Ayton went under, and so did Anthony Simon. So that was a plus 250. So pretty positive day if you're part of the free Winnable. VIP obviously got more picks. But don't sweat it, we are back with another video. I've been reading a lot of the comments, and a lot of guys are wishing I could go back and do what I used to do. And I think the time has come. We've got enough data this season to really play around with it. We've got a 10-game slate. So in this video, I'm going to take you through each game. We'll talk through a lot of the key players, whether they have a good matchup or not to score the ball. I'll give you my insights, give you some leans. If you're interested in just getting my free picks, sign up to the free Winnable. The link for that's in the video description below. I'll send a post out of whatever free picks I land on this evening. And obviously, if you want every single bet that I make on the NBA, check out that season pass 50% discount code if you use the code Kobe. But let's not waste some time. I got a drink with me. It's not beer. We didn't have any beer in the fridge, so I'm drinking my wife's cider, but that'll do. Get me through this video. If that sounds interesting, let's go. All right, we're jumping into Props Madness. If you did not know, it's the most advanced data analytical tool you're going to use on the NBA. The more data it gets, the better it gets. And it's only getting better, ladies and gents. So check it out. Link for Props Madness is in the video description below. You'll get a 7-day free trial on this. And if you use the code DAFT when you sign up, you'll also get 25% off. You're not going to get that discount anywhere else. Now, let's start talking about these games. The first one on the slate, we're looking at the Boston Celtics versus the Charlotte Hornets again. It's a back-to-back game for them. Changes in the lineup. Al Horford's a game-time decision, and Nick Richards, game-time decision, as well as Brandon Miller. So, and there's a few others on that list for the Charlotte who are game-time decisions, but they're unlikely to play. So, first things first, Brandon Miller, if he comes back, I probably won't be betting on Trey Mann. So, I did bet on Trey Mann today. Once Brandon Miller was ruled out, that cashed for us. I did also bet on LaMelo Ball to go over his points prop, and that also cashed. The question is, do we run that back? And Al Horford being a game-time decision doesn't necessarily change things too much. I did bet on Luke Cornett today, and that didn't work anyway. So, but let's talk about these players. LaMelo Ball. The first question is, do we run it back? His line's up to 25.5. It was at 23.5 in yesterday's game. You can see he's hit this line in 4 out of 5 games this season, averaging 29 points per game. He just lit up Boston with 31. And why did I bet on him? It was purely on matchups. We can see here Boston, not great at defending the pick and roll, not the best in transition either. They give up a lot of points to point guards. And if you look at the shot chart, pretty soft everywhere except the corners. They limit corner threes quite well, and LaMelo Ball doesn't necessarily score there. So if this was any other day, I'd be backing LaMelo straight away. The hesitation for me is that he just played against the Boston Celtics. So I'm a little bit cautious there. But another angle you could potentially look at is his assist line. It's only at 6.5. He just had 4 assists against Boston, pretty low. A lot of people did take his assists, and it didn't happen. Trey Mann picked up 5 assists today. But LaMelo not necessarily passing the ball that much in this game, opting to score it. So, yeah, 6.5 is quite low for someone like LaMelo Ball, but he has been scoring a lot more. But does that change with Brandon Miller back in the lineup? Potentially, he could get those dimes up. So, for that very reason, I'm not betting on LaMelo Ball today as much as I want to. I think I want to bet his points line because that looks like the most obvious thing, but the most obvious thing doesn't necessarily work for us. So, I'm just going to pass on LaMelo Ball at all. I'll probably wait for the Brandon Miller news to come out. If Brandon Miller is no good, then I think LaMelo to score points is probably a good way to go. If Brandon Miller does play, I probably lean to the assists, but I probably just wouldn't make a bet on LaMelo Ball at all. Some other key players, we've got Jason Tatum. I did bet on LaMelo Ball and Jason Tatum to score 30 today in a same game parlay, and that thankfully cashed. Jason Tatum, a very strong night out. 32 points in that most recent game against Charlotte. He's covered this line in 4 of 6 games, averaging 30 points per game. When it comes to how he's scoring his points, it's at the rim or it's above the break. Charlotte's defense, terrible around the rim, pretty good at limiting players on the perimeter, but still giving it up right under the basket. And if Nick Richards is not good to go, Mark Williams, he's a game time decision as well. The Charlotte Hornets could be really depleted down low. Jason Tatum could really punish them. Similar players to Jason Tatum, RJ Barrett, Jimmy Butler in their shot profiles. They've all performed very well against Charlotte. Now, I would lean to the over here for Jason Tatum, but yeah, I don't like betting on Jason Tatum. I don't know how else to say it. And he just scored 32 points. Now, do the Charlotte Hornets make a change just like this? Probably not. You know, Charlotte would have gone into that game knowing what Jason Tatum does, planning on how to stop him, and then they just weren't successful in doing so. So I'd lean to the over, but 29.5 is not necessarily a line I want to play. Jason Tatum also rebounded well today at 11 boards. His line's at 8.5, but he's only averaging 7.7 boards per game this season. Do you want to overreact and take the rebounds? Al Horford could be back. And I know he's not a massive rebounder either, but yeah, Jason Tatum, his lines are just way too high for me. There could be a blowout, right? The Boston Celtics could blow Charlotte out of the water here. Jason Tatum may not play those minutes, and then you're absolutely cooked. So if you think there's a blowout, maybe an under Jason Tatum's PRA could be a look for you. Let's have a look at Jaylen Brown real quick. His point line's at 24.5, and that's a little bit more manageable. He's averaging 25.7 this season. He's covered in 4 out of 6 games. He just scored 25 points against them. He shot 8 from 19, 0 from 6 from downtown. So for Jaylen Brown, I would say there's probably some upside here. I think he can get it done. In terms of his scoring profile, scores in transition, gets to the free throw line. Hornets not great at defending either of those. He gets to the basket, gets into the paint, and he also scores above the break. So, look, out of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I'd say looking at what we see here, I would probably say Jaylen Brown. I think he's got more upside. He took the same amount of shots as Jason Tatum today. He got to the free throw line. He missed every single three-pointer he took. 8 from 19 from the field. It's not the best showing. And it's, bottom 3 in terms of how he's played this year in terms of shot percentage. So if I had to pick a score out of the two, I think Jaylen Brown scores some points in this game. Quickly scanning the other props, his assist line at 3.5. It's plus money if you take the over. He's gone over in 4 straight games, believe it or not. 5, 4, 5, and 5 against Charlotte. So the assist could be a good look. Charlotte in the middle in terms of assists allowed. So that could definitely happen for Jaylen Brown. And looking at his rebounds, his line's at 5.5. He's gone over in every single game, which is pretty wild. Charlotte, 5th fewest rebounds allowed on the season, but the season is still quite young. So Jaylen Brown, a whole lot of green here, a whole lot of opportunity. You might want to look at just taking his PRA. His PRA has a better hit rate than just his points. 33.5 PRA for Jaylen Brown. If you hit the over, I think that's not a bad look. Charlotte, not great against defending their transition where he scores. They're not great at defending the transition restricted area where he scores. Their defensive rating is still towards the bottom of the league. They allow a lot of points in the paint. So all these things work in Jaylen Brown's favor. They don't give up a whole lot of rebounds, but Jaylen Brown's been rebounding extremely well this season. So Jaylen Brown points, Jaylen Brown rebounds, Jaylen Brown assists, all of Jaylen Brown stuff. It all looks pretty enticing. So I think that's somebody who's probably going to make my short list, and I'll dive into that a little bit further. I don't mind that for Jaylen Brown. Who else is there in this game that might get your attention? Quick look at Derek White and Drew Holiday to see what's cooking. 15.5 is a points line for Derek White. He's covered this quite well. 5 out of 6 games this season. Just scored 17 against them. He took 16 shots. He was 3 from 10 from downtown, so he didn't necessarily shoot very well. So there could be an upside here for Derek White as well. Want to check his 3-point line. It's at 2.5. He's cashed that quite well. He was 3 from 10. If you're going to tell me you're going to take 10 shots, he's cashing 3 easily. Problem here, odds minus 154. So not very good at all. So the odds aren't great there for Derek White. I think he goes over his 3-point prop for sure. The points prop is an interesting one. I do like it, I guess, but I don't want to take more than one player from the same team to cover their points prop. So I think my earlier look's probably on Jaylen Brown, probably a bigger priority on their offense. We've got Drew Holiday. His line's at 10.5. He just scored 14 points. He took 12 shots in that game, 5 for 12. So there's a whole lot of volume from a lot of these guys from Boston. It just comes down to whether Drew's going to take advantage of it. You could take a look at his 3-point prop. I like this. The line's at 1.5 plus 110 odds. So he just shot 3 from 6 in that last game, which is pretty cool. Pretty good. I like that. They give it up in the corners. He's known to shoot some corner threes as well. They do defend spot up shooters quite well, but yeah, I don't mind that for Drew Holiday. I think that's an interesting look. His points are up. I don't want to go near it all. So that's pretty much all we've got. We've got limited markets there for the Hornets, given the amount of players who are game time decisions. So I think Jaylen Brown, probably not impacted by any of these game time decisions. I think a look on him could be nice. But we'll see where we go. Let's jump into the next game. It's the Grizzlies versus the Philadelphia 76ers. And man, I'm getting parched as I need to get myself a drink. Okay. So what do we have? Grizzlies injured as hell. Choncha, his game time decision, but most likely won't play. They got Bane, Gigi Jackson, Luke Kennard, Marcus Smart, Spencer, and Vince Williams. They are all out. So these short rotations that the Grizzlies have been playing all season probably won't exist anymore. Whereas Philadelphia still just missing Joel Embiid and Paul George. We'll get through. Let's get through Memphis first. Ja Morant, he was excellent in that last game against the Bucks. I said that he probably wouldn't be, but he absolutely killed it. 26 points, although he scored a lot of that in the first half. Started to cool off a little bit, but 26 points, lines at 23.5. He's averaging 20 points per game. He did play 29 minutes. That's a season high. He scores a lot of his points in the paint, although he did make some three-pointers in that last game. Looking at Philly, middle of the pack in terms of points allowed in the paint. So nothing too crazy going on there. Ja also gets to the free throw line, and Philly been giving up a couple of free throws as well. So in terms of scoring the ball, there's no real edge in terms of the matchup. The matchup's not a real difficult one, don't get me wrong, but it's not the easiest one either. So the matchup is okay there for Ja Morant. I think a real good look here is on his assists. I know that lines for this opened up at 7.5. It's now at 8.5, close to plus money. And I really do think it's a good look. He's averaging 9.4 assists in this season. He's covered this in 4 out of 5 games. Philly, they allow the second fewest assists in the league, though. But this has only been 5-6 games, right? So they do limit assists. So that's one question mark, but just the volume of potential assists in the short amount of time that Ja Morant is getting, that leads me to believe he's going to go over. So at 8.5, if I can get it close to plus money, I think Ja Morant assists could be a good look. Ja Morant assists, his points prop, I don't want to entertain that. Who else do we have in this game? We've got Jaren Jackson Jr. His line's at 19.5. He's only hit that once this season. He scored 30 against the Nets. He was 10 from 12 in that game. He shot 80% from the field. Now, the matchup for him, not that difficult, if I'm being honest with you. He scores in transition, does a little post work, spot up shooter, and free throws. Most of these, Philly aren't great at defending. I just question 19.5. It's such a high line for someone who's so prone to foul trouble, you know? So Jaren Jackson Jr., I'm not necessarily loving that. His rebound line always seems too high. His assist line's at 2.5. That seems a little bit crazy for someone who gets 2 to 3 potential assists a game. So I'm not loving what I'm seeing there. Santi Aldama is always a good one. He's rocks or diamonds. He's either going to blow his line out of the water or he's not going to get close to it at all. Now, in terms of Santi, he scores a lot of points in transition at the moment this season. Also scores in the spot up. Doesn't have the best matchup, but the matchup's not too difficult for him. So he could get some buckets here against Philly, playing in that starting role, given all those injuries. He played 33 minutes in the last game. And you can see in most of these games, if he gets more than 30 minutes, he's usually producing quite well. He's taking a whole lot of shots. So if he's going to play more than 30 minutes, I don't mind this. At 11.5, I can see it happening here. Philly, where are they in three-pointers allowed? Jeez, dead. Okay, they actually defend the three-point line quite well, Philly. So maybe on Santi, not necessarily something I would want to play. We've got Zach Edey. Now, Zach Edey, tough to bet on at the moment. I know a lot of people seem to be betting on him, but yeah, I wouldn't have any idea on how to bet on this guy. His minutes aren't great. He gets himself into foul trouble, and there are times where he just can't get a touch. Going to be battling Andre Drummond down there, so it'd be interesting to see how he goes. But yeah, I've got no look at Edey. Let's talk about Tyrese Maxey. His point sign's at 30.5. He's had 2 excellent games, 45 and then 32, up against Memphis, and this is a great matchup for him. So Tyrese Maxey scores his points in the pick and roll, getting to the free throw line and in transition. isolation, and as a spot-up shooter. The Memphis Grizzlies not great at defending any of these, but I want to give you guys a bit of a warning. For those same reasons, I took Damian Lillard the other day, and he absolutely sucked. Now, Tyrese Maxey's got an ideal matchup here, but can he perform? That's the big issue. Now, if we look at the opponent defense, Memphis, weak as piss above the break. They give up so many threes out there, and Tyrese Maxey loves to take them shots. Lines at 30.5. His three-point line's at 3.5. So even though Memphis is terrible defending up here, Tyrese Maxey hasn't been shooting the three ball very well at all. Look at this: 2 from 10, 5 from 17, 2 from 12, and then 2 from 9. So the volume's going to be there. I just don't know if the percentage is going to be good enough to hit it. So took 25, 32, 23, and 31 total shots in the game so far this season. So the volume for Tyrese Maxey is out of this world. The pace should be very high in this game. Look, I probably lean to the over with the volume and the matchup, but man, 30.5 is a lot of points. Now, an interesting look here could be an under in his assists, 5.5, because his potential assist volume isn't high. Even in this game against Detroit, when he finished with 7 assists, he only had 8 potential assists. And normally you hit those at about 50 to 55%, depending on who you are. Realistically, on 8 potential assists, he should have finished on 4 or 5. So we've got a line at 5.5. The under's at minus 122. Sorry, plus 122. So sportsbooks are favoring the over here, and I think there could be some value to take an under in Tyrese Maxey. I just spoke about his shot volume. If he's just going to be shooting that thing all over the place, it might be hard for him to get some assists, is all I'm saying. So probably not a bet that I'm going to take, but that's a nice lean that I have. We've got Kelly Oubre. I bet on his points prop the other day, and he sucked. 14 shots, didn't get it happening. So Kelly Oubre, spot-up shooter, scores in transition and in the pick and roll, gets to the free throw line. Like I said, Memphis not great at defending any of these things. His shot profile a little bit different, though. Does drive the ball a little bit more. And the Memphis Grizzlies have Zach Edey down there, Jaren Jackson Jr. patrolling the paint as well. So they do have some rim stoppers, I'd say. So I wouldn't want to bet on the over for Kelly Oubre's points at all. Rebounds could be an interesting look, though. Last 2 games, 8 and 7 rebounds per game for Kelly Oubre. His line set at 5.5, and this Memphis Grizzlies team, they do allow the 3rd most rebounds in the league. So that could be an interesting look, but again, a small sample size, not necessarily something I want to take on right now. We've got Caleb Martin. He was playing quite well this season. Worst game he's had all year against Detroit. He was 2 from 10 from the field. So his line's at 12.5. He's averaging 11.8. Caleb Martin, shot chart similar to Oubre's in a sense. Gets in the mid-range and likes to drive into the paint. So not enough sample data there. His rebound numbers have been pretty good. 5 rebounds in every single game this season, but his line's at 5.5. But it's plus money if you do happen to take the over. Now, we spoke about the rebounds allowed. If we just take a look at rebounds allowed, he's versed the Grizzlies that he's up against. They give up the 3rd most rebounds allowed. He did play the Pacers, who give up the 2nd most rebounds, and he had 12 rebounds in that game. He did have 5 rebounds against Toronto and Detroit, but the Raptors, they're 15th in the league in terms of rebounds allowed, and then he just versed the Pistons, who are 17th in the league. So tougher matchups than the Pacers and the Grizzlies, who he's about to play, and even the Bucks, 14th in terms of rebounds allowed. So middle of the pack teams. Now he's got a pretty easy matchup when it comes to rebounds. It's plus money to the over here for Caleb Martin. So that could be an interesting one. If you're looking at rebound props, you've got to think about who is going to defend. Caleb Martin listed as the 4. I wonder if he's going to be defending Jaren Jackson Jr. in this game. That's going to be a mismatch. So the Memphis do have some size here. So Caleb Martin rebounds, honestly, don't hate that because Oubre's not a big rebounder, even though he's been rebounding well lately. Kyle Lowry, Tyrese Maxey, not going to get too many rebounds. Andre Drummond's going to have to deal with Ja Morant, ramming it down his head, boxing out Zach Edey and the lot. So somebody like Caleb Martin could take advantage of some rebounds here, and it's at plus money. That might be an interesting look for me to look into a little bit further. Caleb Martin rebounds, plus money. I don't hate that. Talking about rebounds, let's have a look at Andre Drummond. Firstly, his points prop, it's at 10.5. He's averaging 9.8. His season low is 9 points. His season high is 11. Does anyone want to take this bet on? I don't think so. When you think of Andre Drummond, you got to think about rebounds. His line's at 12.5. Um, you can see here he's hitting 2 out of 4 games this season. He had 17 rebounds against the Pacers, and we spoke about them being an easy matchup for rebounds. The Memphis Grizzlies, pretty much in the same league. So Andre Drummond, could that be a big rebound game? I'm not sure. Ja Morant milks a whole lot of fouls. He's not afraid to jump all over Andre. And I think there could be some foul trouble here. So the foul trouble alone is enough for me not to want to bet on it. If he picks up 2 fouls early in that game, you've got no chance of hitting this bet, I don't think. So Andre Drummond, even though he's good enough to get these boards, I'm not necessarily loving that. Next game is the Kings versus the Raptors. Quick look at the lineups here. Kings don't have too many outs, game time decisions, no important ones anyway. And the Toronto Raptors, they've got Quickly and Bruce Brown, their game time decisions, but I believe they are unlikely to play. So having a quick look at RotoWire here. And Quickly, with his pelvis injury, he did just miss the Lakers game. There's no update on whether he's going to play in this one. So Quickly and Bruce Brown would be some good additions to this Toronto team who are lacking a whole lot of depth right now. So what that means is someone like RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett's been balling out of his mind. 20, 31, and 33. 2 30-point games back to back. Makes sense where he doesn't have much star talent on his team. He's taking 20-plus shots. And he's been playing quite well, very efficient as well. Now, he's up against a Kings team who isn't that great defensively this season. Surprise, surprise. They're in the top 10 in the defensive rating, though, but the pace of their games is quick. So they're giving up a lot. There's still a lot of points being scored in their games. RJ Barrett, what's he doing? Scoring in the pick and roll this year. Bit in transition, getting to the free throw line. And if we look at the opposition defense, this looks somewhat similar to OKC, believe it or not. The Kings limiting points in most places. They're giving up in corner threes, mid-range, and in the paint as well. So RJ Barrett, if we look at his shot chart, if Quickly and everybody was playing, you'd probably see a lot more corner usage here for RJ Barrett, but he's on the ball a lot more, scoring a lot of points above the break and getting to the basket. To match up in terms of shot zone, probably not ideal, but if he chooses to drive the ball, he can probably have some success there. The line at 25.5, though, I don't know. I don't think I can play that for RJ Barrett. I don't think he's at that caliber yet. But one thing that could be interesting is his assist prop, because he just rebounded out of his mind against the Lakers. And check this out. His line is at 6.5. He's had 2 games where he's been the main man. 8 assists against Charlotte with 13 potential assists, then 12 assists against the Lakers. So he's up against the Kings. It's going to be an up and down game. There is going to be assist opportunities there, but are you brave enough to take RJ Barrett for 6.5? Potentially. But you'd have to wait until Bruce Brown and Quickly are confirmed, because if either of those guys play, you'll probably see a big reduction here in RJ Barrett's assists. So 6.5, it is extremely high, but I get it. There's nobody else on this team who's going to create. So I'll choose to pass on RJ Barrett's assists for now. Grady Dick's been playing out of his mind as well. He's played 6 games this season. His line's at 18.5. He's covered this in 3 of those games, but you really need to look at the games since Scotty Barnes went down, which is the last 2. And Grady Dick scored 30 points in both of those games, up against the Hornets, up against the Lakers, which is pretty wild. Made 5 3-pointers against the Lakers, shot the ball 26 times, which is just wild. So my man's got to be tired, right? He's got to be tired today after the back-to-back. Now, Grady Dick, how's he getting all these buckets? He's scoring a whole lot of them from spot-up shooting. How do the Kings defend spot-up shooters? Awfully. They're terrible at defending spot-up shooters. So that could be enough reason for me to take a look here at Grady Dick at 18.5 points. I'm going to look at his highlight reel to see how and what type of actions he's getting them in. But yeah, Grady Dick to score is probably not such a bad call. 18.5 points. He's only played 2 games without Scotty. This will be the 3rd. But in saying that, at the start of the season when Scotty was there, he played games without RJ Barrett, didn't necessarily produce those types of numbers. Had one great game when Barrett and Quickly were both out, where he played 30 minutes, scored 25 against Minnesota, though. So I think it comes down to there's 3 key pieces for the Raptors. It's RJ Barrett, it's Quickly, and it's Scotty Barnes. If there's 2 of them out, then Grady Dick suddenly becomes one of your top players who's going to take a whole lot of shots. So for Grady Dick, I like his points prop, but I need to wait for Quickly to be ruled out. So let me write down Dick. IQ ruled out. A little bit of a reminder to myself because sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself, bet on these things before things are confirmed, and then suddenly these types of players are playing. So Grady Dick's a good look if Emmanuel quickly is ruled out for this game. So I reckon just wait until that's confirmed tomorrow. Next, we've got Jakob Pertl. Jakob Pertl's been a beast, very similar to the other two guys. We can see he's hit this line in 4 of 6 games, averaging 14.7 points per game. His line's at 15.5. He scores all of his points in the paint. Let's not muck around there. Putbacks, pick and rolls, and he gets to the free throw line. But the Kings, not necessarily leaking points right under the rim. They defend the pick and roll man pretty well. In terms of putbacks, they can be a little bit soft, though. But yeah, I don't know if I could bet on Jakob Pertl to go over his points prop again. Yeah, I probably lean to the over, but I'm not game enough to bet on it. His rebounds could be an interesting one, though. 11.5 is his line. He's gone over this in 3 straight games now. 12.5 is his average this season. Just put down 12 boards against the Lakers in 35 minutes. The Kings, when it comes to rebounds, 7th fewest rebounds allowed. So that might be enough to deter you. I know it deters me. So I'm not betting on Jakob Pertl today. I wouldn't say the matchup is ideal for him. He's also in a back-to-back, just played 35 minutes against the Lakers. I don't know how I feel about this Raptors team. So there could be a blowout here. The Kings could potentially blow them out. Who knows? But the Kings, I think they're also on a back-to-back. So no necessarily rest advantage, I would say. Let's just talk about the Kings for a second. Who do we got? D Fox. So De'Aaron Fox, his point signs at 24.5. He's hit this in 2 out of 5 games this season. Just scored 31 against the Atlanta Hawks. Now, he's up against the Raptors, who aren't great defensively. The Raptors have the worst defensive rating in the league. They're bottom 5 in terms of points allowed in the paint. They play at a very fast pace. They allow a lot of free throws. They allow a lot of assists. But now, when it comes to defending De'Aaron Fox, though, transition points, the Raptors somewhat decent at defending the transition. But De'Aaron Fox also scores and gets to the free throw line, which they give up a lot of those, and he can do some work in the pick and roll. So De'Aaron Fox doesn't necessarily have a tough matchup here, but maybe we can find someone who's got a great matchup. De'Aaron Fox does score a lot of his points in the restricted area right under the rim, and the Raptors, not great. Like I said, bottom 5 in terms of points in the paint allowed at 24.5. I wouldn't say that there's an edge. I think that's a fair line. So nothing too exciting going on there. His assist could be an interesting one. Started the season off with 2 games with 10-plus assists. Since then, gotten a little bit cold. His line's at 5.5. Just had 3 assists against the Atlanta Hawks, who don't defend anybody. But yeah, I don't know if I could take De'Aaron Fox given the inconsistency that we've seen so far. So no play on De'Aaron Fox. No lean, really. Next, we've got DeMar DeRozan. His line's at 22.5 points. He's hit this in 4 out of 5 games. He's averaging 23.8. The only game he went under was against the Utah Jazz, where he only shot the ball 14 times. But he's actually shot around that range in most games. So the volume's not very high there for DeMar DeRozan, but efficient as hell, getting to the free throw line as well. So if he can get to the free throw line, he's going to score a lot of points. What you can do with this tool is you can check to see free throws allowed. And right now, up against the Raptors, who give a lot of free throws, this is his easy matchups in terms of free throws allowed. What's interesting here is the only game where he went under his points line was against Utah, and Utah allow the 3rd fewest free throws, and DeMar DeRozan happened to go under that game. All the other games he went over because he shot a stack of free throws. So he's up against the Raptors. The free throws could get him over the line here. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's his only way, but definitely an important part of DeMar DeRozan. In terms of his shot zones, DeMar still doing his work, a whole lot of mid-range stuff, and this Raptors team not necessarily the best at defending them. So I think DeMar DeRozan's an interesting look. 22.5 points in this one. Could be a blowout. The spread's at 7.5, but shit, they've been blowing out many teams. They did blow out the Utah Jazz, but he still played 34 minutes in that game. And he played about 34, 37, 43 in the others. So, look, I think DeMar DeRozan goes over. I just want to be man enough to take it. It's going to be a real sweaty thing, especially he scores a whole lot of points in the 4th quarter. Flicking through his assists and rebounds, and there's nothing really compelling coming out of those stats. So let's get into Domantas Sabonis. His point line's at 18.5. He's hit this in 3 out of 5 games, averaging 22.5 points per game. Obviously scoring a lot of his points in the paint. does have a jump shot there if you want to see it. Scores a lot of his points as the pick and roll man and getting to the free throw line and in transition. This Toronto Raptors team, not the best at defending that pick and roll, plus they give up a lot of fouls. So Domantas Sabonis, I wonder how he went against them last year. So 2 games against the Raptors last year, scored 24 in one game, then 13 in the next. But I'm not too interested in last year's data. Teams change. Like even this Sacramento Kings team's got DeMar DeRozan in it. It's you're not comparing the same shit anyway. What's most important here is we look at the trend in minutes. It looks like he'll see between 33 and 38 minutes in this game. That seems to be his average. But there's a consistency there. Attempts 11, 18, 8, 14. So the attempts is the worry here. If he doesn't take the shots, he's not going to get there because he pretty much shoots a very similar percentage in most games. He'll shoot over 50%. The question is, will he get the volume? So this Raptors team, they do give up a lot of points in the paint and in the pick and roll. So yeah, it could be an opportunity here. Domantas Sabonis over 18.5. Not a known scorer, but their defensive rating is ass. So I don't mind this. I don't mind Domantas Sabonis go over his points, but Sabonis can get a lot of assists, can get a lot of rebounds. Domantas Sabonis' assist line is at 5.5, which is eerily low. He's averaging 5.6 this season, which is also quite low. And look, that's got to do with some team changes, right? You add DeMar DeRozan, it's a whole different element to your offense. He hasn't eclipsed 20 potential assists in a game. Still has the skills for it, of course, but their offense does look different. His rebound line is at 13.5. Fair enough. That is extremely high in my opinion. And he's only averaging 11.5 this season. So they're predicting the Raptors brick a whole lot of shots. So if I was going to bet on Domantas Sabonis, I'd probably be looking at his points prop. They gave up 38 points to Anthony Davis, 40 to Nikola Jokic. And Domantas is like a budget Jokic in every way. Not as big, not as good, not as smart, not as efficient, but pretty much does a similar shit to Nikola Jokic, just not as good. And Nikola Jokic, averaging 30 points at the time, scored 40 on them. So Domantas Sabonis, averaging 22.4. He probably could get to 25 points in this game, if I'm being honest with you. So I'm going to add Domantas Sabonis to my short list. But I'm only going to be looking at his points. I don't mind the point look there for points. All right, let's jump into the next game. My lord, we're not even halfway. We've got the Minnesota Timberwolves versus San Antonio Spurs. We've got Victor Wembanyama. Let's take a look here. And before we jump into it, I want to have a quick look to see if there's anybody in or out. Still for the Spurs, Trey Jones and Devin Vassell. So no major changes to either of these teams. Let's talk about it. Victor Wembanyama, line at 23.5. He's hit this in 2 of 5 games. He's up against his fellow Frenchman in Rudy Gobert. His stat lines are pretty crazy. It's all over the place. Averaging 18 points a game this season. So let's talk about this matchup. So he's scoring points under the basket or above the break. Minnesota, top 10 under the basket, top 3 above the break. Gets to the free throw line. He scores as a pick and roll man, scores in the post as well, and in transition. He pretty much scores in so many different ways. Problem is, he doesn't score enough, and he doesn't score them consistently. I think for Victor Wembanyama, the under's always going to be a good look. His line's always going to be a little bit higher than it needs to be, but he is up against Rudy Gobert, and I wonder how he fared against Rudy Gobert last season. Under in 3 out of the 4. So I played one good game against Rudy. Outside of that, couldn't get it happening. So I think right now the best bet you can take on Victor Wembanyama is his under, whether it's under in a PRA, under in his points. That team's not clicking yet offensively. Victor is playing more minutes, but he's not getting the ball when he should be. But when he does get it, he seems to be taking some pretty bad shots as well. So shot selection not great for Victor Wembanyama. I probably lean to the under in his points. His rebound line's at 10.5. And look, he's gone under his rebound line in 4 out of 5 games. Just had 120 rebound effort against the Rockets with 24 rebound chances, which is pretty crazy. He's probably good enough to get 20 rebound chances, but I don't see him getting 90% of the rebounds available. Rudy Gobert will be down there to somewhat slow him down. So for Victor Wembanyama, I'd probably lean to the under in his PRA because in order for him to cash the PRA, he needs to be amazing somewhere. And he needs to be effective in others. So I'd lean to the under for Victor Wembanyama's PRA. Who else do we have? Quick look on Sohan. He's been going great. I know a lot of people want to bet on him against Utah. and he didn't get it done. I think this is an outlier. I don't think this is what you can expect to see from Jeremy Sohan this season. He scores all his points in the paint. Minnesota been somewhat soft in there, but looking at his play type, the transition game is where he lives. Minnesota hasn't been great defending transition so far. 15.5 points is a lot, though. This Spurs team, I wouldn't say they're deep, but they do run a lot of their bench, if that makes sense. So the minutes aren't always guaranteed, but it looks like Sohan's playing at least 30 minutes per game anyway. So the points could be a good look. Rebounds at 7.5. Minnesota, top 8 in terms of rebounds allowed. I think their only soft spot is that they do allow a lot of points in the paint. So, and they do allow some points in transition. So if anything, Sohan points is probably not a bad take. If we compare the defense he's up against the defense he's had to play, this blue graph is showing the defense against transition. And we can see here he had tough matches for defenses in transition. This Utah Jazz one was an easy matchup for him in terms of play type, and he didn't get it done. So even though he's got a somewhat easy matchup against Minnesota, I'm not willing to party with that. But if you have a look at restricted area and the defense played in the restricted area, these teams, the Houston Rockets, not good at it. Utah a little bit better, and Minnesota a little bit better than them. So, yeah, getting some points down for Jeremy Sohan, not necessarily interesting me. Then we look at Anthony Edwards. We're skipping over Julian Champagnie. Don't sweat it. But Anthony Edwards, 26.5 is his line. Same line that he saw against the Denver Nuggets, and he managed to cover that. 7 from 14 from deep. He's hit over 5 3-pointers in every single game. Surely his three-point line's at 3.5. Come on, guys. So I think Anthony Edwards probably going to score some points today. He's scoring 54% of his points above the break, scoring a lot in the pick and roll, and as a spot-up shooter. If we look at the opponent's defense, and yeah, this ain't good. The San Antonio Spurs, terrible above the break here. And if they are so terrible above the break, and we've got Anthony Edwards who scores so many points around there, I personally wouldn't be looking at his points prop, even though I think he can go over it. I'd be looking at these threes. His line's at 3.5. He's averaging 5.8 3-pointers made a game. And yeah, this Spurs team, not a great matchup for him. I'm sorry, it is a great matchup for him to shoot some threes. And given how well he's been shooting and the volume he's been shooting it at, check out the volume. 13, 15, 12, 13, 14 3-pointers. So he's taking so many 3-pointers. How does he not make 4 of them is what I'm saying. So Anthony Edwards to go over his 3-point line. Absolutely love that. The odds for it aren't great. Minus 146 on FanDuel. Ladbrokes is an Australian sports book. They're giving out the best odds at the moment. But yeah, what you could do is take Anthony Edwards, put it with something safe if you wanted to, or just play it straight up and put an extra half unit on it or something. But Anthony Edwards over his 3-point line's got my attention. You might even want to do a 3-point ladder to 5, 6, or 7, right? So we'll take a look at that for Anthony Edwards. Another good look for Anthony Edwards all season has been the under in his assists. The line was always at 5.5. It's now down to 4.5, though, and he's been on the cusp of it. He hasn't been too far away. His potential assist numbers aren't very high. So I would still lean to the under here, but it's starting to get close. That's all I'll say on the matter. Up against the Spurs, they do allow the 7th fewest assists in the game, so in the league. So it makes sense. You can probably still bet Anthony Edwards unders. Just one to think about. Who do we have in this game? Julius Randle. 20.5 is the line. He's hit this in 3 out of 5 games. Look at his play type. Scores pretty much everywhere. 3-level scorer. We know that the Spurs are terrible above the break. I haven't really felt the need to bet on Julius Randle this season. No one's really talking about him, but he's quietly going away, doing his business. He's averaging 23 points per game. What more could you ask for? His assists were a good look for once upon a time, but his line's moved up to 5.5. Julius Randle's getting more assists than Anthony Edwards right now. So at 5.5, I'm not overly interested in playing it. His rebound line's at 7.5. And it's another one I'm not overly excited about either. So I have to pass on those. But let's jump into the next one. We've got the Warriors versus the Rockets. Now, we've got Jalen Green. We've got to talk about Jalen Green because he's been killing it. Check it out. His line's at 23.5. He's averaging 27.6 points per game. I did talk about him before that last Dallas game, and I pretty much said be careful. Just because he's been killing it as of late, the matchup is not good for him. Now, what do we know about Jalen Green? He scores at the rim and he scores above the break and he scores most of his points in the pick and roll, right? Now, he's up against the Golden State Warriors, who defend the pick and roll quite well. They defend above the break quite well, number one in the league, and they defend the restricted area quite well. So if you thought that last matchup against Dallas was going to be a difficult matchup for Jalen Green, then this one against the Warriors might be too. They got some pesky perimeter defenders out there. They're pretty smart in how they play. They know where they want to give up points, and they're not giving up these above the break threes. It's a real popular place to score from. So the matchup is difficult for Jalen Green, is what I'm saying. So I don't like his points prop. I'm not saying to bet the under. I'm just saying I don't like it. But what that could mean, it could open him up for more assists. So the assist could be on here for Jalen Green. The over is minus 102, so the odds pretty close to plus money. That could be an interesting look, but why get interesting with it? Now, one that I do like is probably Alperen Sengun. So I'll drop a bit of knowledge on you guys. So the teams that defend the pick and roll really well, they usually give up a lot of points to bigs because they put so much pressure on the guards. And what that's going to mean is whoever's defending Sengun, if they run that pick and roll with Jalen Green, he might get blitzed, trapped, doubled. Sengun rolls, he's going to have a mismatch down there. So I'll probably be leaning to his over in points. And I say that because I did the same thing for Dallas. I took his points prop in that game, but he was 5 for 16 in that game. He shot 31% from the field, so he didn't play very well. He's going to get similar looks against this Golden State Warriors team, in my opinion. If he gets the volume, I think he can get over there. But the problem is he's been shooting pretty poor in every game this season. For a big man, he's shooting under 50% from the field. So I think the matchup is really nice for him, but he hasn't been shooting that great. So that's my only hesitation. We do have his rebounds prop, though. He's been rebounding well. 12 boards a game. His line's at 10.5, up against the Warriors. 11th fewest rebounds in the league, so somewhat decent rebounding team at the moment. But if we look at rebounds allowed, they're not the most difficult competition he's had so far. So he's definitely had some easier matchups, but it's not the hardest matchup he's had. Tough matchups against the Spurs. Still managed to get it done in one of those games. So not loving what I'm seeing there for Sengun. His percentages, they're bad enough for me not to want to play them. So I'm going to have to pass on that. Take a look at the Golden State Warriors, though. I want to see who they're missing first and foremost. It's still Curry and Melton. For the Rockets, it's Steven Adams. So Wiggins looks like he's playing. So Wiggins probably be the focal point of their attack in this game, I would assume, unless Draymond Green comes out sniping threes again. But Andrew Wiggins played 3 games this season, averaging 19.7 points per game. He's yet to play a game without Steph Curry, though. I think that's a real important thing. While Steph's been out, Andrew Wiggins has been out. So he's probably going to see a little bit more usage. So 19 points per game. His line's at 17.5. Scoring a lot from spot-up shooting right now. But this Rockets team, their defense has been okay. Their defense, top five defensive rating. So for someone like Andrew Wiggins at 17.5, I don't know. We might want to go back into games from last year just to see what did he do without Steph. And you can see that he wasn't electric at all. Averaged 13 points per game with Steph Curry out of the lineup. So didn't necessarily take advantage of any extra opportunities. So the points don't interest me. Neither do the assists, and rebounds, extremely volatile. But someone you can probably look at here is Brandon Podziemski, who has to do everything when Steph Curry's not there. He's asked to score more, create more, and he'll get more minutes. So an interesting one. His line's at 12.5. He's played 2 games since Steph went down. Both games happen to be against the Pelicans. Scored 19 points in the first game and then 13 points in the next game. The volume was nice, though. 18 and 15 shots. Now, how does he like to score his points? He scores as a 3-level scorer. He does score a lot from spot-up shooting, though, and this Rockets team doesn't allow spot-up shooting at all. They're actually very good at defending the perimeter. Their weak spot is around the rim, giving up 2-pointers, layups, and the such. Brandon Podziemski does get in there, but I think in order for him to cover this line, he probably needs to bank some threes, and I'm not sure if he can make that happen. But if this team's going to be soft at getting to the paint, that means Brandon Podziemski could potentially get some assists rolling down here, right? So his assist line is at 5.5. It's a plus money play to the over. 5 and 7 in the 2 games without Steph. 13 and 10 potential assists in those games. So he's averaging about 11.5 potential assists in those 2 games. 11.5, assist line of 5.5. It honestly feels about right. Plus money is intriguing though, but he is up against the Rockets. They allow the 4th fewest assists in the league this season. So the assists, not ready to play with. His rebound lines are 5.5. Yes, he's more than capable of doing it, but why get risky with it? I'm not going to go through all the players, but Trayce Jackson-Davis, I was just really interested to see what the opportunity is for him. I remember I bet on him in this game against the Pels where he played 17 minutes and scored 3 points. I needed him for 10.5. The following game, back-to-back set against the Pelicans, scores 15 points in 20 minutes, 7 from 9 from the field. Unbelievable. Had a great read, picked the wrong game. So not willing to dance with him. Draymond, I want to take his under out of spite, but he just murdered me last time, and I don't think I can do that again. So let's jump into the next game. We've got the Cavs versus the Bucks. Pumping the brakes real quick because it's been about 40 to 45 minutes, and I ask that you show me some love. Like the video, comment below, tell me what your favorite bet is on the day. What are you taking? Share some love. Let's get inspired, people. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Almost up to 11,000 subscribers already. Actually, we might be there already. My bad. Sorry. Must be the alcohol talking. We passed 11,000 subscribers a long time ago. On the road to 12,000 subscribers. And in order for me to get there, I'm going to need your help. So please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And if you want to support me, check out some of my partners. They've got deposit matches, sign-up bonuses. Some of them are giving out free squares like crazy people. Chalkboard, Parlay Play, Rebet, Double Fantasy, Better Fantasy, and Boom Fantasy. Check them out. Links for that are in the video description below. Now let's get back to the preview. All right. What was I saying? Cavs versus Bucks. Quick look at the lineups to see what's going on here. Giannis is a game time decision, but it looks like he's going to play. And the Cavs got some bench players who are game time decisions, but I don't think that changes nothing. Giannis just has some tendonitis. I think he's going to have that all season. So that's not going to be going nowhere. But in this particular game, let's talk about Giannis. His line's at 29.5. Milwaukee, 2-point favorites in this game, which is just wild because they've just been losing like crazy people. Giannis, 29.5. He's covered this in 3 out of 5 games this season, averaging 30 points per game, of course. How's Giannis scoring his points? Mostly under the basket. Cleveland, how's their defense? Somewhat soft in the paint, I would say. But if we look at the play types, Giannis scoring a lot of points in transition. Cleveland's been pretty good at defending that. He gets to the free throw line, isolation, and as a pick and roll ball handler. So scoring is the roll man part of the time as well. But this matchup is not great for Giannis. I'll just say that. It's the toughest matchup he's had all season in terms of teams that allow transition points. So tough matchup there. And if we look at how teams defend the restricted area, this is one of the tougher matchups Giannis has had to have as well. So I'm not saying to bet the under. I'm just saying there's enough information here for me not to bet the over. Looking at his assist line at 5.5, I liked his assist against Memphis, but because the Bucks couldn't shoot to save their lives, he didn't get close to it. There could be a bounce back there. All right, looking at his rebounds, his line's at 11.5. He's averaging 11.5 rebounds this season. He's hit this line twice. The Cavs, bottom 10 in terms of rebounds allowed on the year, partly because they're playing with a little bit more pace than they used to. Top 8 in terms of pace. So they're playing very quickly, which is leading to more rebound opportunities. So for Giannis, there's nothing I necessarily love about betting on him in this game. He's a beast, so I'm not game enough to bet the unders. But let's talk about Dame Lillard. Man, he just played one of the worst games I've ever seen. 4 points, 1 from 12 from the field. What makes it worse is I bet on his over in front of thousands of people on YouTube. But let's talk about it today. Can he get a bounce back? His line's at 22.5. He's averaging 23 points a game this season, despite that shit show in Memphis. Nice reduction in his line. He scores most of his points from above the break, but the Cleveland Cavaliers defend above the break extremely well. They're mid-tier when it comes to defending the pick-and-roll ball handler, Damian Lillard, probably first or second in the league in terms of points scored from the pick-and-roll. So the matchup's not too bad, and he gets to the free throw line as well. So somewhat difficult matchup here for Dame. I wouldn't put it past him to bounce back. I just don't I just can't see myself doing it, knowing that he absolutely screwed me in the last game. It's a long season, so I don't want to bet on players bouncing back without knowing a little bit more facts. So passing on both of the boys from Milwaukee to score. Who else have we got here? Donovan Mitchell. I think this is going to be a popular play today. His line's at 24.5. He's covered this in only 2 out of 6 games, but he has been very close. But Donovan Mitchell keeps finding foul trouble for some reason. It's crazy. If you have been burnt from Donovan Mitchell and his foul trouble, let me know in the comments below. Get all your feelings out. You can start venting down there. How much money did it cost you that this man got into foul trouble? Now let's talk about it. The Milwaukee Bucks and Donovan Mitchell. So Donovan Mitchell scoring his points from above the break, like a lot of guards these days. So that's not a surprise. Scoring in the pick and roll and in transition, getting to the free throw line. Great matchup for him because the Bucks are shit at all of these things. Now, if we look at where they defend the floor, the Bucks give it up in the mid-range and above the break, and that's because they play a whole lot of drop coverage with Brook Lopez. If Donovan Mitchell's running a pick and roll and somebody is rolling, you can guarantee Brook Lopez is going to give him that open mid-range. So it makes complete sense to me to bet the over here for Donovan Mitchell. The problem is it's probably going to be one of the more popular plays. It's that easy to spot. Most people will be able to find it and bet on it, and I don't hate it. I wonder how he performed against the Bucks last season because they would have been in drop coverage as well. And against the Bucks, he had some success. 3 out of 4 games. He averaged 30 points per game against the Bucks last season, which is pretty crazy. This is all regular season stuff as well. Minutes, nothing crazy there. He's still producing that. 23, 19, 24, and 27 shot attempts. This season, under their new offense, what's he taking? 15, 20, 17, 18, 21, 14. So, Donovan Mitchell not shooting as much this season, which would be my only concern with taking this bet. The matchup is excellent for him. Let's not forget about that. Great matchup, but his shot volume is not the same as it was last year. So it's probably enough for me not to bet on it. The fact that he might not take enough shots to get to this, but the matchup is great. So one thing you could consider, maybe Donovan Mitchell will score in the first quarter, perhaps, maybe the first half. I'm going to put that down because I'll do some research on it. First quarter points. Because if he keeps finding foul trouble, it makes it impossible for him to hit this total line. So that's what I'm thinking. Assists, look, betting the under on Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland assists have been a wagon all year. Now, this is because of how the Cleveland Cavs play defense. Sometimes Evan Mobley rings a ball at the court. Everyone's getting touches, and then they do play a lot of isolation or very simple pick and roll stuff. And yeah, so the assists at 5.5, I probably lean to the under, but that's at minus 154. So the odds aren't necessarily great for that. And rebounds, ain't nobody fucking with that. But what you could do, knowing that his rebounds and assist numbers have been down all season, you could look at rebounds plus assists. His line's at 8.5. He's averaging 7 rebounds plus assists this season. You could take a look at it under there, but yeah, not too desperate enough for that. Points for Darius Garland, 18.5. He's got a similar type of matchup, right? Scores in a very similar way to Donovan Mitchell, and he's going to get the same opportunities, drop coverage, and the likes. Now, how did he play against this team last season, I wonder? And he didn't. Injuries, of course. So, for Darius Garland, he's a little bit more hot and cold. Donovan Mitchell, I would say probably the focal point in their offense. But Darius Garland does get some shots up as well. Doesn't get to the free throw line as well as Donovan Mitchell does, unfortunately. But doesn't rely on those free throws. So another angle you could look at is 3-pointers made for Darius Garland. Line's at 2.5. He's averaging 3 per game. The over is minus 115, so the odds aren't too bad. And the Bucks, not the best at defending the perimeter. We can see that right here. They give up the mid-range as well. So I don't mind the points here for Garland, but yeah, 18.5, still quite high, pretty high. Like he's either going to blow it out of the water or not at all. And this is what's going to make betting on the Cavs difficult all season. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, very similar play types. So they're getting at similar types of matchups. Maybe against teams that have a primary perimeter defender, that makes life difficult. So you could say Darius Garland might be a better look in this game because Damian Lillard will probably be the one who has to pick him up. But they do have Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince. I probably think Gary Trent Jr. would pick up Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, I'd probably lean towards Darius Garland in this game, but with so many games on offer, there's no need to get desperate. Evan Mobley been playing very well this year. His line's at 14.5. He's averaging 18 points per game. Up against the Bucks, he's going to have to tackle Giannis all game. So he's scoring in transition. Bucks not great at defending that. Getting to the free throw line. So he's got a pretty good matchup too, Evan Mobley, to be honest with you guys. Does score inside the paint most of the time, and the Bucks somewhat decent there with Giannis and Brook Lopez. I wonder how Evan Mobley went against the Bucks last season. And shit, he was injured too, so he didn't get to see too much Bucks action. So nothing too much going on with Evan Mobley. Assist line at 2.5. Bucks aren't giving up too many assists right now in his rebound line. 8.5. It's a bit all over the place. So if you're betting on Evan Mobley, you're most likely looking at his points prop. 14.5. I don't know if I could get there. But 10 points for a bitch-ass parlay might be something that you could do. Now, I was going to do a bitch-ass parlay in this video, but this is going to go for well over an hour. So I don't really want to drag things out. But Evan Mobley could be a good look there. Jared Allen. Let's have a quick look at Jared Allen and how he scores. He was a beast all year long. Then he came up against Orlando. He was 1 from 3 in that game, which is pretty wild. And I wonder if we can find out the reasons why using this types of data. So Jared Allen scores all of his points in the paint. He scores a lot in the pick and roll. Gotcha. Now, if we look at look at the matchups here. So this is how teams defend the pick and roll. He had a difficult matchup here against Detroit in terms of defending the pick and roll. He managed to still score 17 points. But Orlando, also pretty good at defending the pick and roll, man. Barely scored a thing. But outside of that, scoring excellently up against the Bucks, who don't necessarily defend the pick and roll that well. And that's because Brook Lopez is in drop. So you could see Garland and Mitchell drawing in Lopez and finding Jared Allen there under the rim. But if we look at shot zones, he's got a very difficult matchup here. Top 7, the Bucks, in limiting points under the basket. Jared Allen hasn't faced too many teams that are that difficult. So Jared Allen, I'd probably pass on him. Probably passing on this whole Cavs team, to be honest, right now. You don't know where the points are going to come from. Wait till we get some injuries, perhaps, and then you can find an edge. But let's talk about the Miami Heat versus the Washington Wizards. Load up Jordan Poole as I look through the lineups to see who's in and who's out. So for Washington, Saddiq Bey, Brogdon, Kyle Kuzma still out. For Miami, Kevin Love, Duncan Robinson. Okay, interesting. So last time I bet on Koulibaly when Kyle Kuzma was out, and he performed for us very nicely. I don't think he's got an easy matchup here. That last game was against Atlanta. But let's talk about some of these key players. Jordan Poole, his points line's at 23.5. He's hit this in 3 out of 4 games this season, but he is up against a tough Miami defense here. He played against Boston, who are not great at defending guards. Played Cleveland, only scored 14. Then he played Atlanta 2 games in a row, scoring 26 and 24. Atlanta just not good at defense, full stop. Now he's scoring a lot of points in the pick and roll, in transition, getting to the free throw line and handoffs. Miami great at defending all of those, top 10 in those. He scores a lot of points above the break. Miami, great at limiting points at the rim, but not so great at defending above the break right now. So some contradicting data saying the play type, probably not ideal for Jordan Poole, but in terms of area on the floor, it looks like they're getting it off. So it could be a different type of play type where they're really loose around. So for Jordan Poole, not interested in touching the points. His assist line's at 6.5. He's hit this once so far. Minus 146 to the over, which means the sports books are really predicting him to go over his assist prop, which is quite interesting because I will be leaning to the under 6.5 assists, and it's plus money if you do so. That's crazy. Now, if we look at Miami, I wonder if we can find any opportunities here. It's probably too early in the season. I'm leaning to the under here for Jordan Poole and his assist prop, but let's see what else we can find. Bilal Koulibaly. So, been scoring quite well in his last 3 games. No Kuzma in that last one, so he saw a big jump not in his minutes. He always played similar minutes. He took a couple more shots and made those suckers. But his line's at 14.5. Scores a lot as a spot-up shooter, and that's because these teams leave him wide open. It's not that he is a good shooter, but they do leave him wide open. And that's where some of these above-the-break things come. Miami also not great at defending the corners. So Koulibaly, I think to score some points could be a very interesting look. Um, I'm just trying to think who defends him. That's all. So could be Jimmy, probably not. Could be Jovic, to be honest, given the athleticism, and Jovic can be in help coverage. So I think Koulibaly is an interesting one. I have liked betting on him. I'm going to take him down. I'll do some research on Koulibaly, but I do like that. Another look could be his 3-pointers made, 1.5 minus 125 to the over. I probably don't love that as much. Probably just the points, because this guy can get out in transition, attack the basket. Sometimes he can shoot from three. So that's a really interesting look on Bilal. His rebounds line's at 5.5. This could be another interesting look. He's averaging 5.8 boards per game, had 9 rebounds with no Kyle Kuzma. Got a ton of rebound chances in that last game. But they do have Alex Sarr in there, that team. So there could be some others who can get some rebounds. But I do like Koulibaly, his rebounds as well. So points and rebounds could be an interesting look. We've got one game sample size without Kyle Kuzma. We had 36, and it was also against Atlanta. So this is a much tougher matchup, but I have liked what I've seen from Bilal Koulibaly so far. Let's talk about these guys from Miami real quick. We got Tyler Hero, 22 points per game this season. He's hit this line of 20.5 in 2 out of 4 games. Scores a lot of his points above the break. And this Washington team, bottom 10 in terms of defending above the break. He scores in transition. Washington's not great at that. Pick and roll ball handler as well. So the matchup's not bad here for Tyler Hero. I'll just say that. He can definitely get some points here. The problem is you'll probably find most players for Miami have a good matchup. So that could sway things a little bit. Let's have a look at Jimmy. Jimmy's averaging 16 points per game, 2 out of 4. Now, I never bet on Jimmy Butler in the regular season. If I was to bet on him, it would be an under. And based off this matchup, there could be a reason for an under here because everyone else has a good matchup. Jimmy, not the most selfish player at the moment. Well, during the regular season anyway. And you can see it through his attempts. 9 shots, 11 shots, 15 shots, and then 8 shots. So his shot volume is not crazy high. He does get to the free throw line a lot, though. And this Washington team does foul a lot, but are they going to foul enough for Jimmy to shoot enough free throws? So the 2 games where he did cover this line, he shot 17 free throws against Charlotte and 11 free throws against Detroit. He could bait these guys and live at the free throw line, but I just don't think he's going to need to because so many other players have a good matchup here. So for Jimmy, an under is interesting. His assist line, he only covered it in the 2 games where he went over his points line, and very similar to his rebounds line. So his good games, he pretty much covers everything, and his bad games, he doesn't get close to it. So what I'm thinking here is taking an under in Jimmy's points, rebounds, and assists because he's either going to blow it out of the water completely or he's going to rely on others to get the work done. So I think Jimmy under in the PRA could be an interesting one. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are. We'll look at the under in his PRA because we know that Tyler's got a good matchup. I bet you Terry Rozier's got a good matchup. Above the break and at the rim, spot up shooter, free throws. His matchup's not too bad, but he's been scoring quite well as well. And then you got Bam Adebayo. Now, a lot of people are going to be betting on Bam in this game. So he scores a lot of points in the paint. Washington, not great defensively down there. Bam's been pretty quiet this season. And I believe someone in their coaching staff or one of their other players, who was it? I took a screenshot of it, I think. But let me take a look. It was Eric Spoelstra. It was the coach, of course. He said, obviously, we have to get the ball to Bam. That's on me. Everybody's got to be able to feel aggressive, feel like themselves. That's on me to get Bam in the spot so he can be comfortable. What that means is they're going to try to feed Bam the ball here, which is why a lot of people are taking his over in points. This opened at 15.5. It's now at 16.5. I'm not going to bet on it because he hasn't gotten close to it all year, but if he does, he does. I'm just saying I'm not going to bet the under. The line is where it is for a reason. But let's say Bam does eat these guys alive and Eric Spoelstra is right, then we might have a good reason to take Jimmy Butler's under in his PRA. So from this particular game, I like Jimmy's under, and I'll be looking at Koulibaly to see what else we can find. But next, we've got the Portland Trailblazers versus the Phoenix Suns. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the lineups. Simons is a game time decision. Rob Williams is a game time decision. And for Phoenix, Bradley Beal is a game time decision as well. So I wouldn't make any bets until these lineups are clear. But let's talk about some key players. We've got Devin Booker, just scored 40 points against the Clippers, 33 against the Lakers. Last 2 games, he's been crazy, averaging 26 points per game this season. So my man's been cooking. Now he's up against Portland, who are, where are they at? They don't allow many points in the paint, but they're bottom 7 in defensive rating. Good matchup here for Booker. He scores in transition. This team's not good in defending it. He also scores above the break, and Portland aren't great at defending there either. Portland do limit points in the paint, but Booker not scoring too many points in there anyway. So they allow a lot of assists, a lot of rebounds. So somebody from Phoenix going to eat. Now, will it be Devin Booker at 26.5? I'm not sure, because Phoenix 12.5 point favorites in this game. You have to worry about the blowout. If the game spread's usually more than 10, I probably wouldn't think about betting on anything but an under, hoping that blowout occurs. And I did that against Portland today. They came up against OKC. I bet the under on DeAndre Ayton, under on Simons. I thought that was a better angle than betting on an over on the opposite team. So, and they both won. So Devin Booker overs, yeah, he's got a good matchup. He's probably going to cook them alive. But if there's a blowout and he plays only 3 quarters, you're going to probably find yourself in a bit of trouble. Same thing applies here with Kevin Durant. His line's at 26.5. He's hit this in 3 out of 5 games. His matchup, pretty good as well. He's got a good matchup, but again, the same thing. Blowout, if that occurs, he doesn't need to play those minutes. But there's also the Bradley Beal factor. If Bradley Beal does play, that's another 15 and 20 points they're going to get from somewhere else, meaning Kevin Durant, Devin Booker probably don't need to cook as much. So I'd be hesitant on those. Anthony Simons, he's a game time decision. So only his prop is available at the moment. It's 21.5. Now, Phoenix, not great at defending pick and roll ball handlers at all. That's where Simon operates. He scores a lot of his points above the break. Phoenix probably average in how they defend it. So he's not the under that I'd probably be thinking about. It might be DeAndre Ayton, but again, Phoenix not that great defending under the perimeter, under the rim either. So yeah, nothing I'm loving in this game. I probably want to wait for lineups to be confirmed here for Bradley Beal and for Anthony Simons, see what else is available, what's on the board. I think someone like Jeremy Grant could potentially have a good game, perhaps. Maybe it's Scoot Henderson. We'll see. But you've got to wait for those lines to really open up. Now, the last game here is the Oklahoma City Thunder versus Los Angeles Clippers, and Hartenstein's still out. Kenrich Williams, he's a game time decision, so he might play. And for the Clippers, same old Bamba, Leonard, Tucker. Not too much changes there. So this is going to be a real interesting game because both of these teams, very good defensively. Very good. James Harden, someone I want to look at here. And I'd be leaning to the under immediately just based on my knowledge. Got nothing to do with these stats, but the stats can probably speak to it. James Harden's points line is at 22.5. He's hit this in 4 out of 5 games. All right, pretty decent this season. But he's up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. OKC, number 1 defensive rating this year. James Harden scores most of his points as the pick and roll ball handler. This team, number 1 at defending the pick and roll by a long margin. James Harden also likes to score above the break. OKC, second best team in the league defending above the break. Just think about who they have. Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all monsters on the defensive end on the perimeter. And they've got Chet Holmgren down there, who's been an absolute beast defensively. So I think James Harden, he's going to have a tough night here. He's going to show us how great he really is. And if James Harden can cover his line, man's a beast. But for me, I'm thinking the under here for James Harden immediately. This is the hardest matchup by a long way that he's going to have to face. Now, there are other teams who probably, have similar stats. You've got here the Golden State Warriors, like I said earlier, good at defending the pick and roll. James Harden scored 23 points in that game, 6 of 19, 2 from 12 from deep. But if we look at the shot zones, Golden State, yeah, very similar. Top team at defending above the break. So very similar to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I just feel like the overall team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, is a better defensive team than the Warriors, not just isolating certain points on the court. They are beasts all over the point, all over the place. They don't allow points inside. They don't allow points outside. They're that good. If anything, the only weak spot there is they give up some rebounds, but that's got nothing to do with James Harden scoring points here. So I do like the under. You could look at his assist line. It's at 10.5. He is averaging 11.5 assists per game this season. OKC top 10 in terms of assists allowed. And if they're forcing the ball out of his hands, yeah, he probably does get the assist, right? But yeah, that's not something that I necessarily want to play. His rebound line's at 6.5. That's moved up as well. I don't think I can entertain that. You could look at the over. That's the only weak spot, rebounds allowed. But then you'd have to look at where and who and how they give up rebounds. That's just too much analysis for me. This video will go for 8 hours. By the time I finish it, the games will probably start. So, yeah, James Harden, the points under could be an interesting look. We've got Norm Powell, who's also been scoring quite well. His line is still at 19.5. It was 19.5 against Phoenix. Now, the one thing I'll call out here, he did have a difficult matchup against Phoenix and still managed to cover that line. This matchup here, who's scoring as a spot-up shooter, transition, and off screens, it's a little bit easier than the matchup he just had against Phoenix. You can see it here based on these numbers. The part where it's a little bit more difficult is obviously where he scores. That above the break stuff, that could be somewhat difficult. The line in this game, though, is 6. The Clippers 6-point underdogs in this game because the Clippers also have some very good defense as well. So I'll just call that out. Both teams very good defensively. So Norm Powell has a tough matchup, but he's had tough matchups before, and he still managed to score. One look I could be interested to take is an over in his three-pointers prop, 2.5. He could get that done, but it's not screaming out to me as a good play. Now, we've got to talk about Zubac or Zushak, as my man Josh likes to call it. Now, he's covered this line in 4 out of 5 games. Pretty much been a beast all year, except for the game against Portland. His line's at 15.5. Scores all his points in the post-up and in pick-and-roll coverage. All his shit happens down low, and OKC very good at limiting that. So, tough matchup for Zubac as well. Does have the size advantage on Chet. Probably not the length, but definitely a bigger body. I couldn't tell you what happens here with Zubac. I honestly don't know. Rebounds at 11.5. This is their soft spot, you could say, but OKC did limit DeAndre Ayton to 5 rebounds, right? So, yeah, it's a wait and see here. I'm not willing to take any bets there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 28.5 points. Broke the 30 mark again against Portland. So that's 2 out of 5 games this year. Now he's up against the Clippers, who themselves are pretty good defensively. In terms of how he likes to score, the Clippers pretty good at defending them. James Harden, Norm Powell, Terrence Mann, Derrick Jones doing a pretty good job defensively on that perimeter. So the matchup's not ideal, but I don't think the matchup really matters for SGA. He's just that good. So if you look at the opponent's defense here, we're talking about the Clippers. They don't give up points at the rim, but above the break, that's where they can be a little bit vulnerable, right? Now, SGA, you can see it in his box scores, trying to extend his range out this season. He's shooting a lot more three-pointers. Unfortunately, he's not shooting them very efficiently. 1 from 6 in the last game, 2 from 10 against the Spurs, 3 from 8 against the Hawks, 2 from 9, and 2 from 6. So every single game, he's putting up a lot of threes. The volume is there. He's just not making them, which means his overall field goal percentage hasn't been there. But I think throughout the season, we're going to see it start to pick up, and he's going to be a problem. But for now, this is not the matchup I want to take. Jalen Williams, he's averaging 18 points per game. He's hit this in 3 out of 5. He likes to score above the break, but his matchup is somewhat difficult as well. I'm thinking if Chet's got a difficult matchup, we might have to resort to some Lou Dort stuff, right? So Chet, he was a beast until he came up against Portland, only scored 6 points in that last game. Didn't really need to do nothing, only played 18 minutes. Against the Clippers, tough matchup. He scores in transition, restricted area. Clippers, that's the only part they're really good at defending. So I think the real opportunity is whoever wants to live on the outside, and you're probably thinking it's someone like Lou Dort, who scores 66% of his points above the break and as a spot-up shooter. The Clippers, not the best at defending spot-up shooters. Now, Lou Dort, let's see how he's gone in similar competitions. Check it out. He had the easiest matchup he's had in terms of for Lou Dort against Atlanta. They were 3rd last in the league in terms of defending spot-up shooters. Lou Dort, 4 from 6 from downtown. Scored 16 points. Then he faced the Spurs, where the matchup wasn't that difficult, but he was 6 from 8 from deep in that game. He versed Portland, who were probably mid-tier in the league in terms of defending spot-up shooters. He was 1 from 4 from deep, 3 from 9 overall. And now he's up against the Clippers, who are bottom 5 in terms of defending spot-up shooters. So it's a pretty good matchup for him. If we look at shot zones and above the break, this Clippers matchup, yeah, it's somewhat easy. I'd say it's similar to the Atlanta. It's probably a little bit harder than the Atlanta matchup, but the matchup is good, is what I'm saying. So I'm thinking Lou Dort 3-pointers could be a look. His line's at 1.5, right? But the potential here is for him to get 4, 5, or 6. It'd be pretty brave to take it, but brave is what I am. So Lou Dort, I think, could score some points, potentially. Lou Dort points or threes. That's why we're going to research this stuff. So, and I'm doing my best to get through 10 games with you guys. And I know a lot of you guys probably haven't made it this far. So if you did make it this far into the video, let me know. Type in the word Dort in the comment section below, because I think Lou Dort could be money, man. Imagine what Lou Dort for 4 3-pointers, 3 3-pointers. You could have a Lou Dort 3-point ladder here. And I think I honestly might play it because this matchup is great, you know. SGA is going to get his buckets, but the matchup's not terrific. Jalen Williams will get his buckets. Matchup's not great. Chet will get score, but the matchup is not great. I think someone like Lou Dort can really break the back of the Clippers here. And why not? Could lay a unit across a full ladder for Lou Dort. We'll see where we go. We'll see where we end up. But yeah, there's no one else within that game. So I hope you guys found that interesting and very insightful. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Like I said, if you want to get my free picks, sign up to Winnable. The link for that's down below. Just go to the free section and subscribe, and then you'll get some free picks from me every single day. But if you want to get access to every single bet, that season package is the way to go. If you just wanted to get insights and analysis and make your own decisions, that's exactly what this YouTube channel is going to give you. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. I need to know what your thoughts are. Do you just want to see my picks, or do you prefer content just like this? Best of luck to you, though. Best of luck to me. Best of luck to us. Peace.